All right, well, this shooting in Texas was a horrifying event. I'm sure you've probably seen the footage of it. It's all over the place. But if you haven't, I'll explain it really quickly. An armed gunman shot and killed an innocent person in cold blood with a shotgun. This armed person then turns around, shoots again, but within about 2 seconds from the first shot, he is then put down by someone with a pistol. It's gut-wrenching to watch, and I wish this incident never occurred, just as everyone does. But it did, and there's footage of it, and a decent amount can actually be learned from it. Specifically, that good guy with a gun theory sometimes actually happens, and it can save an unknowable number of lives. Who knows how many more people would have been killed if not for that gentleman putting that gunman down. Just compare it to New Zealand with the Christchurch shooting, in which 51 people lost their lives. And that gunman was the only one with a gun in the room. The outcome of that situation was tragically easy to predict. There's just next to nothing that will stop that shooter. Now, if there is a good guy with a gun in the room, I'm not saying that it's a guarantee that the gunman will pop one shot off and immediately be put down. They unfortunately have the element of surprise, and there's so many variables in a chaotic situation like that it would be disingenuous of me to say that that would occur. But what I can say is that the probability does go up significantly that less innocent people would get killed if there was that good guy with a gun around. So now this tragic situation occurred, and like clockwork, the political chirping begins, people talking about how pro-gun people are just using this as a political talking point. Now, that's partially true. This is a situation in which gun restriction could have been lethal to those people, and so it's fair to point out that if gun control advocates had their way, this would have been a far larger bloodbath. That is a fair point. It's obvious and in your face. So what do anti-gunners do? Well, they deflect. Now they're claiming that if they had their way, that madman with a gun wouldn't have had a gun in the first place. This is obviously unfounded, considering how much violence is committed with an illegally obtained firearm. I'm unsure if this gunman had a gun legally or not, but even if it was legal, making it illegal likely wouldn't have done anything. Guns are not impossible to get. There's a huge black market for them. Now, on the other hand, what is obvious here? Well, like I said, a firearm being used for its proper purpose, that is self-defense and the defense of others, prevented what otherwise would have been an absolute massacre. It's frankly pitiful that many gun control advocates cannot even bring themselves to admit this. They painfully and strenuously avoid admitting this because it hurts their narrative. And again, my claim that this armed person prevented a massacre, there's no debate to be had. You don't need to look at statistics. You don't need to look at a study. You don't need $19 million going to the CDC to conduct gun violence research. It's right there in your face that guns can turn the tide on a potential massacre. Now, this tweet here is something I've been seeing a lot of. It's this sentiment that all gun advocates care about is that a good guy with a gun stopped the shooting. But what if more people had died? Would we still be glad that a lot of people lost their lives simply because a good guy stopped it? Now, this misses the point to an utterly staggering degree. And also, it's quite vile what the implication here is. The implication being that we don't care about innocent people dying. That is not the point. The point is that no matter how many people die, the number of deaths would be higher if there is no one there with a gun to stop them. So if 10 people were killed and someone with a gun finally kills the murderer and the situation is neutralized, it's horrifying, but you can still be thankful that instead of 10 people dying, it wasn't 20 or 30, which likely would have been the case if all the shooter needed to do was obtain a weapon illegally, and then they just get to go on a shooting spree with no one there to stop them. Then all you've got to rely on is the police, who won't arrive for several minutes if you're lucky. And that is more than enough time for a madman to do severe damage and take an untold number of lives. And guess what? With several minutes, it doesn't matter what kind of gun you have either. Automatic, semi-auto, shotgun, rifle, pistol, it doesn't matter. If you just have a pistol and some loaded clips on you, the amount of damage you can do is out of control with a room full of defenseless people. Now, on the other hand, you could have that dreaded AR-15, and if you start shooting in a room full of people, several of which who are armed, your shooting spree will be cut very short, and that is the best thing that could happen in an otherwise terrible situation, and that is the point. And it is sad how blind some people have become because of political allegiances that have prevented them from being rational and logical actors. But that is all for now. Like, subscribe, and share, and all that awesome stuff. It's a huge help. And take it easy.